Welcome back to on the Slab Horror Show, exclusively on the Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube. How are you all doing tonight? It is Friday night. It's movie night, and of course, my main man Ian the Dynamo Kelly is with me again tonight. How are we doing, brother?
Friday night at the movies.
We're gonna look at some old pictures. They say.
We certainly are.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you might notice, our third man is not with us tonight. Greg is not feeling the best, so we wish him all the best. And yeah, he's in bits with his tooth, so we can't talk about horror. So anyway, he'll be back with us next week. So
he's horrified from the pain that he is suffering.
He's terrified to go on the slab. He's terrified to go on the slab,
especially with us.
So we thought we'd start a series of we like doing those lists, don't we? And
we are a list type group.
Yeah. So what we thought we'd do was we'd start with, it's almost like our history of horror through the decades. And what we've done is we've kind of agreed on 5 films that we all like, and we'll do that then every couple of weeks or whatever the case may be. But we're going to start with the 1910s because don't forget, the first horror is classed, and I have it here, called Le Manoir de Diablo by Georges Méliès. It was like a lot of those films back in those days were like 12 minutes, so of course silent films, but that's officially...
They were almost like the first comics, weren't they? Really?
Exactly, yeah.
When you think about it, they were like real life comics in the sense that all of your verbiage was coming through text, and then you were having to put together the pieces of the actions that you were seeing on screen.
Yes. So, of course, that's the first classified horror film where that you see Satan as a vampire bat. That's what makes it horror, So, I mean, I love looking at some of, and the great thing about all these films that we're going to talk about, most, if not all of them, are on YouTube. So you can go back and look at them. And I mean, what I'll do is if there's YouTube links for them, we'll put them on the description later on. And so people can have a look at them themselves. I think it's great.
There is one for everyone on our list anyway.
Yeah. These films, they might seem ridiculous. And, you have to remember it was the dawning of the 1900s. So they didn't, and
you know what I mean.
I have to be honest though. Some of the atmosphere on these films is better than some of today's films. It really is.
Well, some of the things that I have to do now to get with the times are ridiculous. Like I think social media to a point is ridiculous. I think how people live vicariously through their phone screen is ridiculous. How their life is on Instagram, their life is on TikTok, their life is on all this, meaningless kind of corporate nonsense. Absolutely. Like, I think that's ridiculous. But at the same time, this was at a time where you had to use your brain, use your mind, and really kind of fill in the gaps. And this was your source of entertainment back then. So I think to look back on any of this stuff that we talk about with any kind of negative light and kind of, call it shit would be very, very, what's the word? I'd call it uneducated, basically.
Yeah. I think anyone who's a horror fan, a proper horror fan, and a serious horror fan will appreciate, I think, all the films that we're going to talk about on these lists. Some of them will be, because some of them will be obvious when later down in the decades, but some of them won't be. That's the great thing about horror shows, they can be a little bit, off the wall sometimes with our lists,
Yeah.
So what we'll do is, as I said, we'll just quickly run through the 5 that we kind of all, the 3 of us, agreed on, to set us off for the best kind of horror movies from the 1910s. Do you have your list? Do you have a list of it there now, or do you want me to just read them out?
No, I have it.
Cool. Well, the first one There, and again, these aren't in order. We're just talking about them. It's not a case of 5-1. It's just as
there's nothing to really review as such.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's it. I mean, Frankenstein from 1910. 1910. That's amazing.
11 years before that, it was it was what, 1899.
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper wasn't long, doing his thing before this.
Yeah.
The Titanic hadn't even set sail.
Wow, that's amazing when you think about it. What I love
Do you know
about,
what I mean? The Titanic hadn't set sail when
yeah,
this movie came out and when it was made, and it probably, let's be real, I don't know what kind of info we could get on this. I'm sure
not an awful lot.
tell us. But this probably took maybe 2 or 3 years to make.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Well, I know it was produced by Thomas Edison. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And he certainly wasn't a foolish man. Just saying.
No, that's it. But again, I tried.
Created a thing or two, didn't he?
He did. It was made in the States, and Augustus Phillips is Dr. Frankenstein, and Charles Ogle is Frankenstein. So, again, I don't know if they were in any other thing. I'm sure they were, but they were the two main characters in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very, we'll preface this by saying, I would watch it just to be educated. And look, it's 13 minutes of your life, really.
Exactly.
But I would watch it more so with the view of education to see how far technology has actually come in such a short space. And like I say, to me, what I got from this was it was like your first comic, but your first live action comic, you know what I mean? Because it's the dialogue you're getting and the story and the narrative that's been told is through the text that you're getting on the reel. And then, the blanks are filled in by the actions of the actors and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not gonna blow your mind. But what will blow your mind is if you really do think about it, that they didn't have technology back then, to make this what you become accustomed to.
Yeah.
And now, we can watch whatever we want at the click of a button
on our phones.
Back then, people lined up in theaters just to see that. Hence why we're coming through a paid app. You know what I mean? It's crazy, and I think it's and that's why I use the word educational. I think if you're in any way into film or anything I think if you're in any way into film, I think you'll know that anyway. But I think if you're in any way just kind of curious of where it all began, for movies in general, not even just horror, everything had to start from somewhere, right? Exactly.
And I mean, in my opinion, it's not a bad starting point,
No. And it is grainy. It is it's hard to understand. And the monster, it's it's a guy in a suit and all that kind of thing. But the thing is, imagine in the 1910s when there was no education and any sort of thing, people would have been fucking terrified.
Terrified shitless, yeah. I love that. There's the classic picture of him, which will be up on the screen as we're talking about the film, is his face where he's just like. I love it. It's just hilarious. It looks like it's like Ozzy Osbourne or something,
Yeah, definitely on drugs.
Yeah. But that's the first one. A good one, Frankenstein. The second one that we were looking at was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was very good. I actually, again, I watched that today for education again,
And did you notice in this one as well that there was a little bit more kind of action in it in terms of how the acting was presented? And again, within the space of 2 years, the quality was better.
And there was camera trickery as well.
Exactly.
When he changes into Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
I thought that, and even though I thought it, I was like, actually, that's cool. It was kind of smooth the way they did it.
In the space of 2 years already, their camera quality is getting better as well. You could define the faces and the bodies a little bit better as well. I know it's different production companies and whatnot, but just in general, they were learning on the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think the two main countries for the first 2 or 3 decades,
the UK America and France.
Germany, and from what I can see anyway, the ones I would kind of lean more towards would be the German and the American ones. The UK later on with the likes of the Hammer and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's just me, you know. But yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1912. Can't believe it. James, what's his name? James Cargo. Yeah, James Carews. Sorry, my apologies. Was the main man in that film.
I'm sure he won't be offended, Carl.
Well, if you're listening to me, or if you're up or down, I don't know. Sorry.
Making those sort of films, he's going to hell, especially back in those times.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was great. It was a great little 14 minutes or whatever. Brilliant.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was this one was like an upgrade because I watched them all in sequence again over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And I thought it was good. The next one we can introduce a German one, of course.
Oh yeah.
Their Gollum, 1915, 3 years later. A longer film though.
Yes. I think it was about 54 minutes or so.
Yeah. Wow. Like again, you're still getting your context from text, and from reels, but there was a lot more kind of dramatization, wasn't there?
Yeah, big time. The story was a lot more fleshed out.
Yeah,
I think wasn't it to do with there was a Jewish community or something, and they were getting terrorized, and the rabbi prayed to this statue, the Golem, and tried to get him to help, but of course he just went mad and started killing everybody.
I think about that context. Actually, this is pre-World War II. This is pre-Hitler. Like, you know what I mean? This is like and like a long time before. You know?
Big time, yeah.
Like, you know, what was that? World War II was what, 1940, 1939,
Something
1940.
like that, yeah.
So, like, you're talking basically what 35 years.
Mm.
I mean, I'm 37. I've lived a lifetime so far in that. So, like, again, context. This is so early on. Like, this is madness. Like,
and it's like you say, like the jump that they're making in quality in such a short time is phenomenal. And I'm sure it was done with all genres of film at the time. Is, you know, like it was a real art form.
Yeah.
Back, you know, then, and even now, I know now, but like when you said they didn't have an awful lot back then. You know, like they had to use here more so than a screen, you know. And like, you know yourself, the mind is a fantastic tool to have.
Yep. Read the Walking Dead comics and it will show you how a human being can just go from everything you have right now to basic, using that little nugget that you have up in your cranium, you know.
That's a very, very good comparison there, actually. And when I think about it, Paul Wegener was the guy who played their Gollum himself.
Paul Wegener, yeah.
Yeah, Paul Wegener. But
very happy to be a star in this movie, yeah.
Let me move like some stone, yeah. He reprised the role in 1920, though, believe it or not.
Yeah.
What was it called? The Gollum and how he came to be, or something like that. But that was a little bit more
upgraded.
Yeah, that was a bit more fleshed out. Yeah. But I always.
But we still don't use the words, yeah.
The Gollum, huh? I still like.
I'm employed by Germans all the time, so I have a love for Germany.
But Mr. Kelly, we are from the land of chocolate.
I know.
Anyway, that we're going off topic here.
This is what we do.
Yes, we do. So I always think that the Golem. I think the Golem looks very, very cool. You know, with his kind of bowl haircut and all this kind of shit. They're starting to get a bit scarier looking as they go on in the years.
Well, they have to, you know what I mean? And that's gonna, you know what I mean? They had to try and one up. And I mean, these guys, there wouldn't have been a lot of films, so it's not like they would have had the highlight reel that we would have now, where we have reference points to go to. Whereas their reference points would have been a very, very small. notepad, I'm sure,
Yeah.
of what to look to.
Our test screening crowd, or whatever, like a small test screening crowd, which if even.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and looking at the movies that they were trying to compete with or one up, I guess they would have been going, oh, we can make this better, yeah. So like it would have been the better. So it would have been, you know what I mean? They would have been again. We're going back in history this time. We're looking at things that they're going, right, how can we make this better? How can we make that better?
Yeah.
So, we've seen Frankenstein. That was amazing. We've seen Dr. Jekyll. This was amazing. And whatever movies came in between that as well. And there are plenty. But they would have, it just would have been a much smaller amount of research that they would have had to do. For example, to look how they make their monster look better now that they've got a bit more meat behind or a bit more equipment and a bit more kind of, eyes on the product, so to speak.
And of course, they would have been experimenting with materials for practical makeup and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Well.
Yeah. That was also evolving, yeah.
Yeah. Finding what sticks and what doesn't, and what, like, what they can use as a proper, like say a sticking agent or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, like I say, it was all coming along,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably my favorite film on the 5.
The next one I didn't watch a whole lot of, but I watched a good bit of it, to be fair. Was A Night of Horror, 1916, a year later.
Another German.
What did you think of this? Yeah. What did you think of this? I thought their Gollum was better personally, but I do think this deserves to be on it because I think it was within the same ballpark in the sense of,
it was good. Like that's the kind of thing. I mean, they're all kind of films that, they set the standard for what was to come. And
here's a thought.
Go on.
What do you think fucking Alfred Hitchcock was influenced by?
Well, there you go.
So when you're shitting on these, but you think, suspense thriller and all that is all great, guess what? The master of suspense was influenced by this.
Yeah.
So
and you can see it as well.
Oh, they know you, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, that's on YouTube, and like I say, we'll put up links to show them. I think everyone should. I think anyone that's watching this should at least watch every film on these lists, because when we say film, they're 10, 15 minutes max. Absolutely.
Bar the last two, the Germans like to go long.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, so that's a night of horror, and who do we have that? Werner Krauss produced that, I think.
Timo Werner Krauss.
Yeah, he's
a great at the moment.
Yeah. I think he's Werner's great grandson.
Possibly.
So, who knows with these Germans? we're losing the plot here with this bloody thing.
I love it.
So we've one more then, and it's called Fear from 1917. And that
imagine the title of that, like when they were advertising this movie in their local little, theaters. It would have been incredible, because a lot of these theaters that they had would have been show theaters, even like our very own Savoy Cinema here in Dublin.
Yeah,
it's completely different now, which is unfortunate, because my mother and my auntie all worked there their whole lives. That's where they spent their careers. And
wow.
To see it now, like even the big screen is just gone, and they've split it into two just for that.
A pity.
It is a pity, but like, I grew up in that place, when it was like a whole big arena. To me, this was like being in something like Madison Square Garden when you're a kid, because you've never been over there,
Yeah.
But these, like the likes of this, for any Irish people watching, they'll know what I'm talking about. The Savoy is just one example that used to be a stage where people would perform.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of draw the curtains and have a screen at the back, and this is where they would show these film reels. And it was something different. People were like, okay, we're used to looking at shows with music and dancing and whatever, but like, this is on film. What the hell is this? incredible to think about. You know what I mean? It actually brings me a lot of joy when I talk about it.
It's great to have those memories, I'd say.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it brings me a lot of joy thinking about how people would even have reacted to these movies back when they came out.
Oh, they would have been shitting the brick. That's the great thing.
Yeah, like how they were advertised, like a film called Fear.
Yeah.
You know?
that even sounds great today, like, you know?
Doesn't it? Like Fear. You're like, oh shit, you're already scared, especially back then.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already scared. Will Jesus let me watch this? Am I going to the gates of hell after this one? I don't know. Should I go? Should I not? I won't tell my parents I'm going. Fuck it. You know, Johnny wants to take me out tonight. I gotta go.
Did you watch this one? Did you watch this one?
I did. I
liked this one. There was a little bit of a different one with the whole course and all that kind of stuff.
And it was a bit. Yeah, there was a bit of a bit of Satanism, I suppose, involved, or some sort of kind of
some kind of wrongdoings, anyway.
Yeah. Like with the whole curse thing, I was like, right, because you really have to concentrate on them to make head or tails. Because you're waiting for the next script to fucking know what's. It's like imagine reading The Walking Dead in black and white and not knowing what's going on. Although the artwork is phenomenal, so you probably put pieces and pieces together, but you wouldn't get context.
No,
is the point I'm making. But no, I thought this was a cracking little movie. It was actually my favorite out of the.
Right. Okay.
Three.
Yeah. It was a very, very good addition to this little list, I must say.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and I liked at the end when your man, the little Egyptian fella, just takes the statue back and he just walks away. I thought that was there you go. No happy ending there.
There's always some mad little fucker in a horror, isn't there? Like just something like like. Circus act or something.
Yeah,
they probably found and be like, "You are perfect," especially back then. Sir, perfect.
Half dead, but come on, we'll give you a job anyway.
You're a half a human. You've only got a torso. We're bringing you on. Let's go.
But again, small list, short list, but it's just to give you all an introduction into our little series that we're going to be doing. And with other films, we will be talking in much more depth and detail.
Oh yeah.
But I have to say, it's been great to kind of look at these couple of little clips on YouTube and enjoy seeing how, as we've discussed, how horror cinema has progressed, and it progresses quite quickly as well, as we were saying.
It did, and I think one of the great things about it is, for horror buffs like us, I mean, you can call yourself a movie buff, and I would like to say that I am that too, because I do like many different aspects of cinema and of film. But at the same time, my I suppose my preference and my love and my passion, like you and like Greg, is horror cinema and horror movies, and I think. It's always great. I've always been like that, even with bands, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure you have, Carl.
Yeah.
Obviously you have. We know that we've spoken about it many times. Anytime I've had a favorite artist or a favorite band, I've always liked, or a favorite singer in our case.
Yeah.
I've always liked hearing, I love hearing Bruce Dickinson talking about how he loves Jethro Tull and someone like a Ronnie James Dio and Ian Gillan and all that, and I go, and when I was very young, I would go and seek those artists out. Then I'd be like, well, if they influenced him, I need to fucking hear what these guys are about. And like, even though you were in for a culture shock, you're like, well, this doesn't sound like Iron Maiden. You were still like, oh, but I see.
I can hear bits from what they're from.
And the older you get, as you know, when the brain kind of evolves a little bit and you're able to have a little piece. I think it's the same with horror.
Yeah.
Or with movies, you know what I mean? You understand the influence. It's like the point that I made earlier about, like, well, most of your psychological thriller horrors that you listen or watch now are based on some form of Hitchcock. But like, what did Hitchcock base his stuff on? Where did he get it from?
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
like I mentioned on the previous show about God damn it, Spiral Staircase.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, that was at a time where I'm sure Hitchcock was looking at that stuff. But what did that German director look at? You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
all these little movies that he would have been accustomed to growing up.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
don't be so quick to shun these movies off as just being
Exactly.
shit. Fair enough, you might not get through many of them, and that's fine. You know what I mean? But I think what we're here to do is talk about how important they are
Yeah.
to this particular genre, and
Absolutely.
they are vital.
Absolutely. And I think the next one we'll be doing will be from the 1920s. I don't know if we'll do that next week or not. We'll see. We'll have a chat about it, and we might just interject them in.
Yeah, I think we'll probably mix it up, because we don't, you know what I mean. We don't want to keep everyone. You know, some people find this boring. That's fair enough.
Yeah,
We understand why you find it boring, and sometimes people just want that. You know, sometimes people don't want to go out on dates and, you know, wine and dine people. Sometimes people just want those sugar walls and they want the good stuff. You know what I mean? So
we are the sugar walls that will provide.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know, Carl. You calling me a vagina?
Hey, everyone's
But I think what we, you know, I think we'll try and mix all these up, because, as I say, we're growing as a show.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to keep mixing it up. You know, I'm really excited to do these particular ones, though, and I think people will start appreciating them as they go in sequence.
Yeah.
And see what we're trying to do here, and just gonna be the best horror show on the on planet Earth.
Damn right. Made by fans for fans.
No such thing as OnlyFans on this.
Well, Greg can do the OnlyFans page. That's what he can do.
He can do that. That's all right.
Yeah,
No, I don't judge.
Nothing to do with us, but if he gets money from it, we still have to get a percentage like WWE does.
Podfather.
Anyway, we have been on the slab tonight, and it was a great little show.
Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, Ian, until next week, sign us out there.
Yeah, we are on the slab. This is the Dynamo Podcast Network. You can catch us every single Friday at what time, Carol?
10 o'clock.
Horror time, just like it used to be in the good old days.
Hell yeah.
So until next week, for me, Ian Dynamo Kelly, for himself, Carl King Woe, we are over and out.
Adios.